Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
These shows are brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation in partnership with the Compassionate Friends. Well, Heidi, we've got a great guest today on, and we are going to be talking about death duties and wrapping up personal and practical affairs with somebody who knows a whole lot about it. Do you want to introduce her to us?
Sure, I would love to. We met her at ADAC last year, which is the Association for Death Educators and Counselors, and she is actually going to be presenting this year. And so let me talk to you more about her. Alua Arthur is the founder of Going with Grace, which supports people as they answer the question, what must I do to be at peace with myself so that I may die peacefully? Which is a great question. She is the author of Guide to Completion, the First 10 Steps to Completing the Affairs of Your Loved One's Life. Welcome to the show, Alua. Hello.
Thank you. Hi. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you on, Alua. And really important question. How did you get started with it?
Going with Grace was born out of a period of time in my life after I decided I was going to be doing work with people that were dying. My brother-in-law got sick and died. And when he did, it was a very short time period. There was about 6 months between diagnosis and his actual death. And during that time, I remember he was 43 years old.
How did he die? You said 6 months.
Burkitt's lymphoma.
Wow, that's awful.
Yeah, it was quick. It was very, very rapid. And from the time he got the terminal diagnosis, I remember looking around his life essentially and wondering what we were supposed to do with this life that he'd, and the tangible things that he'd accumulated, not only the trajectory of his life and memories and so on and so forth, but the physical representation of the life that he lived. And in the weeks after his death, I tried to put a very quick guide together for my sister, like here are the things to do, but she was in the midst of such profound grief, as was I, but hers was different. And I remember watching her sitting on the couch, just staring into space and thinking, now how's she supposed to get through this checklist that I've created? I had the background, but things like transferring title of his car, his vehicle, were confusing to me at the time. And I have a legal background. I thought there's no way she's going to be able to manage this. Don't get me wrong, bright woman. But so during that time, I thought we need to do better. There was nobody to call. There was no professional. I could just be like, we'll pay you whatever, just handle this for us. So yeah, we needed people. So I became the people.
Wow. And you don't even think about all the stuff involved, like transferring your car title.
No.
I would think, and I was talking to my mom about this before the show, Alua. I think one of the hesitations for people to put their affairs in order is that they have to admit that their life is going to end at some point, right?
Yep. That's a big one.
And we don't want to admit that. Even if we're sick, we don't want to admit that, right?
Yeah. And we admit that we don't want to admit that.
Yeah. I don't want to get my affairs in order because then it'll be saying that eventually my life will no longer be.
I mean, it's amazing all the people that don't make wills or anything or even think about it because they don't want to think about it.
Yeah. And then at some point it's too late. It's too late. I got a call this morning for a young woman, 44, who had a brain aneurysm. She has no children, a mother, a sister, but she has property, and we're going to sit tomorrow and see what is present so that we can try to figure out how to move forward. But education around and awareness of death is certainly a big component of what I do, because we need that before we can even say we should put our affairs together.
What did you do with your sister? How did you chronicle it, or what did you do? How did you, that got you started on figuring it out, right?
Yeah, basically I had a Post-it note and I thought that'd be sufficient. And I started to write the things and one thing quickly sprung into like 50. And I was like, what do we do? So I set her off with that task. I was off to Germany to go take care of myself because I'd been there for 2 months prior and needed to do some self-care. So I left, but I remember checking in with her repeatedly afterward. And then as that started to happen, also in my life, other people as parents and family members started dying, and they started contacting me because I was already doing work in the death and dying field. And I started to support more and more there as well. And then saw, things that weren't present with my sister, perhaps with my friend's dad. And all over the place. I've got a good feeling of what it looks like when people aren't really prepared, and then the work it takes to actually prepare afterward.
So give us, you've got 10 steps in your book. Give us a couple of steps.
Well, the first one is to create a team.
Ah,
I think that's the most solid one. The people, whenever, most of the time after a death, people say, whatever you need, I'm here for you, just let me know. And it's important to look at those people, and it's really, really important to call on them, but to call on them based on their particular strengths and talents.
Ah,
Nobody's going to call me and ask me to organize a funeral because I'm terrible at that stuff. But you might want to call me when it's late at night and you need somebody to sit with and cry with. You might need me to help organize some paperwork and some documents. So it's important to look at the individual strengths when you call. But amassing a team is the most important part, because it's not a one-person job. It requires a lot of support. It
well,
requires a lot
I
of
really
hands-on.
like this amassing a team idea. When my dad died, my husband is an investment person, and he went in and took over her investments for her. Nobody else in the family wanted to do it. He helped her look at her investments, and that's important. I mean, I never thought about that. Look at your community and see what their skill set is.
Look at their skill set. That's a perfect example of that. Accountants in your life will probably going to do a really good job getting all the finances in order. Your nephew might not be any good at helping with physical things around the house, but maybe he's really good at internet research, and he can try and figure out a family tree when you have to submit something like that to probate. So look at their particular skills and talents. And those are things that we know innately without having to do any extra research or anything.
I think people are so reluctant after a loss to impose themselves upon you. You're not going to have, like my husband says in the investment business, isn't going to go up to my mother and say, can I take care of your investments? He's not going to do that, right, Heidi?
I agree with you, Mom, and yet sometimes that's what people need, because sometimes you're so overwhelmed you don't even know to ask. And if someone would come up to you and say, hey, I'm an attorney or I'm an investment person, I can be of help in this area, it's almost like, oh my gosh, thank you for seeing what I needed, because I don't even know what I need.
I completely agree. And often the request is, I'm here for whatever you need. And then the person who's in need is like, I don't even know where to begin.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's also for us, the community, to say, this is what I'm good at. This is what I did before when somebody else in my life died, or this might be challenging. Let me just take this from you. Let me handle this from you. So putting that team together.
So Alua, what's something that people are most hesitant to do with the 10 steps?
I'd say the accounts.
Okay.
Because it seems like such a pain to go through all your online accounts.
Yeah.
But those end up causing a lot of stress, primarily because of identity theft, which is becoming a very real thing today.
Wow. And what about after a loss? What is the one thing that people are hesitant to put in order?
I'd say stuff.
The stuff.
Stuff, the things, the things. What do we do with
Yeah.
all the things?
All the clothes and things like that.
Yeah, jewelry, paperwork, things, watches, things that physically remind us of somebody that we love. I keep thinking, I wear all these bangles all the time. And after my death, people are probably going to be like, oh, eek. What do we do with them? Who do we give them to?
Yeah. And what do you suggest to people about that?
Well, sure. You mean, okay. People really need to prepare themselves beforehand and get pretty clear on what they want done with their stuff afterward, and create a plan of some sort. And I don't just mean a will and a trust, because most of us know that we have to handle the car and the homes and the art and the bank accounts, but little things like these bracelets, for instance, that don't have much monetary value, but have high sentimental value, because everybody in my life knows that I have these on every day of my life. They're going to want them. And rather than just leave it to them to figure out, I've been pretty diligent about how many of my bracelets each of my sisters will get.
That's great.
Yeah. I hope that it doesn't cause trouble.
You put your own affairs in order.
Yeah, I got to walk my talk.
I love it.
So, yeah, these passwords and all that kind of thing are really a hideous problem.
Yes.
Really, really difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are so many programs now, though, that are really helpful to get them together, which, I mean, it's not a surprise, but preparing them for the end of your life can also really support while you're still living, in that I forget my passwords all the time,
Mhm.
all the time. And then, you know, they send one email to the other email, and I forgot that password, so I have to reset that password to another email. Before you know it, I'm 4 passwords deep. There are programs like MasterPass and Last Key that will help you put all your passwords in order. But it's important that remember, if we create a program like that, we have to let people know what that master password is so that they can get into it, because then it's totally useless.
Right, absolutely. Well, after the death, have you seen some family feuds?
Many of them,
Mm.
lots of them. And this is a big part of why I do what I do and encourage people to plan as much beforehand. Half my work is split half between pre-planning and consultations, and then after a death.
Mhm.
And the family feuds they're really sad. They are maybe not entirely avoidable, but they could be lessened in their acuity if we were to plan better. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really sad. I mean, tensions flare and emotions are high anyway. It's a tough period anyway. We can make it so much easier on each other.
And are the family feuds related to money or just a lot of different things? I mean, what do you see people fighting over?
A lot of different things.
Okay.
Money, burial plans, what to do with the body, burial, cremation, that's a big thing. I'm also seeing people fight over tangible things. I see people fight about the doling out of medication nearing a death.
Wow.
Yeah, like dad's sleepy and out of it. He must be over medicated. And then
Mm.
the other sibling is like, no, dad needs pain medication, and the pain medication is making him sleepy, and that
Mhm.
clash.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a big one, painful one.
So, what are some of your other 10 things? I love that team.
Yeah, me too.
The team is the first. The second, I'd say, is the documents. Get all of your documents together. Look for the key ones like birth certificates and marriage certificates, divorce certificates, vehicle registration, house deeds, things like that. Get them in
Mhm.
order. Get them in order as much as possible.
Mhm.
And put them in one place and create electronic copies of them so that they can be used when they need to. Also, the death certificate, which will come naturally after a death. But I suggest having 20 of them. Some people suggest 10. I say 20 certified copies. Send it to different places. It's useful in
I,
like title to a vehicle, for instance.
I remember after my brother died, him getting something. He wasn't in the military. Do you remember this, Mom? But he got something in the mail and they kept sending stuff and then it got aggressive.
Right.
Oof.
You know, like, why
Supposed to
isn't he
register.
responding?
He was supposed to register.
Yes. And it's like he's not here physically on the earth anymore, but it was very disturbing to keep getting these letters and to have them more hostile because, I knew he was dead. And it was just, it was a reminder that it was permanent and that he wasn't coming back, I guess, which was hard.
How did you deal with that situation?
My husband finally called him and told them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is also difficult after some death where there's going to be a remuneration, where there's been an accident where somebody is liable, or we hear a lot of hospital stories, about lawsuits and all that. That's a really tough one, isn't it?
Absolutely. Very tough. Very tough. Very tough, because the money comes. Money does bring about a lot of feuds, sadly, but when the money comes, then we got to figure out what to do with it. And also the constant having to assert that somebody is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be useful in grief, but it's also incredibly painful. And if we can let
Especially early on when you're still trying to wrap your arms around the permanence of it all, right? Because you're still kind of in some way tricking yourself to thinking that it's not permanent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have bill collectors calling saying,
Yeah.
can I see your mom, please? And it's like, oh, can you
Mm-hmm.
put her on the phone? Well, she's not here anymore. It's
Yeah.
pretty
I'm,
brutal.
I'm getting a little rattled by Facebook too. You know, my brother's birthday or whatever, I get this Facebook thing, that's old, or, where they celebrated his birthday, before he
But
died.
his stage is still up and he's no longer here. He's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not the Facebook. It's not we're honoring him now. It's like he's still alive. It's
Yeah.
really, really, really strange. I think. Have you heard any stories about? Do you have any thoughts about the internet as far as the grief and loss?
Lots of thoughts about the internet. Facebook is soon going to become a digital graveyard. There's something like
Wow.
3 million users that are dead, or I think it's a big, big, big number.
Wow. I love that statement, a digital graveyard. That's powerful.
Absolutely, where we can go back and see people's profiles because they aren't being closed, they're not being deleted. And you can see who they were and how they lived for a period of time. You see photos, you can see what they thought about politics or whatever else was going on. But the challenge is that the things like the birthday reminders, I see birthday reminders for people that I know are dead, and it stings a bit every time. Yeah, it stings.
Yeah,
And the fact that over time people stop posting on that person's wall.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be hard for family and friends to see that people have stopped responding or posting.
Yeah, to think that person is being forgotten somehow.
Yeah, but I love the history piece. I love being able, like, I'm thinking of my brother who died at 17. If he had a Facebook, my children who are now 19 and 13 could go on Facebook and see who he was, what he thought about, what he posted, his photos. It would have been amazing.
That is sweet. I think about that sometimes. Like, are my grandchildren gonna be able to see me on spring break in Lake Tahoe?
That could be a good or a bad thing.
so give
That was a wild one.
So give us some more of your 10 things.
Social Security is a big one, which obviously we know we're supposed to call in and close out or let them know, but it serves a dual purpose. First, it can also let people know that there are benefits out there that they could still be getting. Secondarily, it also puts a freeze on all the credit accounts so that everybody's aware that somebody's dead, and so no new credit card account should be open, no credit should be open in that person's name. Super useful because, again, identity theft is a thing.
So you need to get a hold of them right away.
Get a hold of them very soon. And often funeral homes will do it for you, but funeral homes don't have access to the information that might say that there could be benefits out there for you. So it's important to also follow up and do it yourself. But again, this is something the team could handle because it's a phone call. They'll just need access to the numbers and things like that. So Social Security will talk to them, but it's something that somebody else can handle on your behalf. Calling the credit agencies directly. Similarly to the Social Security, calling the credit agencies, let somebody know that that person is deceased so new accounts aren't open. It's also useful to get a credit report so that you can see what accounts are open, like what things are ongoing accounts, and then they have a phone number on there, so you can also then call those accounts directly and close them out. So it serves a dual purpose, again, of no new credit being open, but also giving you access to accounts so you can close them out that way.
Now, I want to talk about you now for a minute because people can get your book
on my website. It's www.goingwithgrace.com.
Goingwithgrace.com. That's so fabulous. Now, can I work with you directly?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The workbook is just for people that don't want to work with somebody directly, but I take on clients all the time to support them through this, either through taking it on for them or creating a very thorough list and a detailed step-by-step process. And also just taking a bit of a piece from them. Like, I'm working with a client right now to get her paid out on the life insurance claim because she's getting some resistance from the life insurance company.
Wow.
That's awesome. Where are you located? I know they can do it online, but where are you located if I happen to be in your area?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Well, I love what you're doing. It's such important work, and you can go online and do it. We do this in partnership with the Compassionate Friends, and I think this is really important for somebody who's lost a child, because there are many people who have lost a child that are involved in litigation. They're involved, and you understand the grief and loss world. You can hear people talk about it. You understand the problems, you can be compassionate. You get how it is to have to value your child's life so that you can settle with insurance companies. It's really an incredibly, and Heidi, you saw it with the 9/11 families, right?
it was, we really needed you, because what happened was the widows, I worked with fire department families for 10 years, and the widows, we had to sit down with them, and they had to put a price on every single thing that their bereaved, husbands did, so that they could get money. So that, how much is it worth that he used to give my daughter a bath? I mean, it was everything. He'll never be able to help my child tie a tie. How much is that worth? We had to line item prices, and it was so overwhelming for these widows, because now they were grieving not only the loss, but they were grieving all the future stuff that their husbands would have never done.
Yeah,
And
like
they had to do it to get money. So I can't imagine. You said people have workbooks, and that's great that you have a workbook out there, but I can't imagine doing this alone. I think doing it in tandem with you would be the way to go, because otherwise this just feels really, really overwhelming.
Yeah,
So I
and
love
it
that
is.
you're out there doing it.
Thank you, Heidi. It is overwhelming. It's overwhelming for the most brilliant of minds, for the most capable of people, because grief, as we know, it shifts the very foundation upon which you walk. So trying to navigate this new space emotionally while also dealing with bureaucracy, I think it's actually kind of cruel the way that it's set up, which is why the team is so important, but why I think there also needs to be professionals that do this. I
Yeah.
get the ins and outs of the system now. I know the shortcuts, and also, to be frank, that those little 3 letters behind my name, Esquire, make a huge difference. People respond,
Absolutely.
Esquire.
Oh yeah. My husband's an attorney. You calling Sam an attorney, heads start to spin.
Doors open.
People start to take phone calls, and doors start to open. You bet. Absolutely. I love it, Alua. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I love the service you're providing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And tell people about your website. You told them your website. Give it to us again, because it's so darling. And you have all those fabulous clips on. And she's done 3 clips for Open to Hope. You can find her on Open to Hope. And she's just got all sorts of wonderful little pearls of advice and fun. And what a charmer you are.
Thank you. Thank you. My website is www.goingwithgrace.com. Going with grace. Let's just find ways to go through all of this gracefully, one way or another.
Wow.
All
Love
right.
it.
Well, thank you, Alua.
Thank you guys so much.
We want to thank everybody for watching this show today. And I'm sure Alua will agree with us. And Heidi and I always want to say to you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless.